These are some of the most powerful things that I own. Let me explain this to you. Earlier this week, I got an email from my property management in Australia letting me know that the unit that I bought when I turned 30, almost 7 years ago, that the rent would be going up because the market is improving. And I just had this moment because the past few years, obviously, the economy hasn't been good, so the rent hasn't been improving, but how proud I was that I saw that out. And it reminded me to tell you the story of how I bought my first property. I hope it's the first one of many. I grew up with my mum constantly telling my sister and I to never be reliant on a man, to always have our own money, and to have our own property eventually. I always wondered why, and years later I would find out why she spoke to us like that. But that's a story that I'm going to take to the grave. However, at a very young age, that foundation was already set. Save your money, save your money, save your money. And I took it very seriously. When I came to Singapore and started working in the media, the money was so bad, it was next to nothing. And so I had very, very little savings. One day, out of just the luck of the universe, I got an email from Virgin Radio Dubai telling me that they would like to give me a package to go to the UAE and help work at the station as a DJ. Now the salary was 3 times as much, tax-free, annual flight home to my mum. And it was just a fantastic opportunity for a 24-year-old to really get some savings under her belt. Before I left, my mum said to me, behave and save your money. Very soon, touching feet down in the sandpit, it was clear to me that very few people were saving their money. Dubai, or the UAE, has debtor's jail, just like in the Charles Dickens era, that if you get into debt and you cannot service your credit card, etc., if you live beyond your means, you can go to jail if you can't pay the loan back. And that was enough to scare me, along with my mother's advice, to being the most frugal I've ever been in my life. I remember working my butt off, hosting a TV show for 12 hours, then going on the radio in the evening, doing the kind of work that we can only do in our 20s because we have this kind of infinite energy we can pull in. And I remember thinking, you're finally getting a little bit of cash behind you. Don't take this for granted. And so I started saving. I remember wearing clothes that were gifted to me as an influencer and never buying anything, and going to events with women in designer clothes and feeling a little bit like, I'm here in my freebie stuff that doesn't really suit me. But I knew at the end of the day there would be a bigger reward for this. So I kept my eye on the prize. I even used the free Virgin Radio mugs and towels in my house so as not to have to buy normal towels and mugs. I just used the ones that we would give our listeners. It was ridiculous how focused I was. And then when I went back to Australia, and I was lucky enough to get the papers from a radio job in Australia so I could get a mortgage, you needed Australian pay slips. I remember walking into the bank, filling out the mortgage papers, and the bank manager saying to me, "What assets do you have?" He said, "Furniture." I said, "I don't have any." "A car?" "I don't have any." "Credit card history?" "I've never owned a credit card." He said, "So all you have is just this cash?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "What, are you a soprano? This is your only history?" Because I had been so focused and been an expat, I didn't have any of those other things. So I bought this little apartment by the ocean in a beautiful area that I could have only dreamed to have grown up in. And recently when we were in Australia, my partner and I were there, and we had, a dinner along that street where the apartment is. I remember thinking, if anything happened, and this is before I knew about COVID-19, if anything happened, at least I know I have a roof over my head here. At least I know I have something where I can support myself and be safe here. And in that moment, I realized that all of my mum's phone calls every month in Dubai, "Are you saving your money? Are you saving your money?" was all so she could give me the gift of that moment, of maybe things that she had to compromise on in telling us, when Asian parents tell us, save your money, they're actually giving you freedom. Freedom of opportunity, freedom of choice, freedom to fully be you, freedom to be uncompromising. And it was such a wonderful gift, because I could have ended up in debt and I could have just spent that money on designer clothes, but now I have something. And when I hold these keys, I can tell you that it is so sweet, this moment. It's like it gives me diabetes, it's that sweet. And it's something that people can't take away from me. Even if I sell it, that moment will forever be mine. And I want that moment for you. It is really difficult while paying rent in a foreign country like Dubai and also saving a deposit for a property. It's really difficult. But the frugality and the discipline that I managed to do during that time to achieve this goal made me realize that if I was really focused, I could do anything that I wanted. Like leave the media and become a successful global speaker in 1.5 years. It gave me confidence. And when we are disciplined towards the goal and we achieve the goal, we get more than just the goal. We get the confidence from knowing that we can last through the process. And that's actually what I would love for every young girl who's watching this, just like my mother wanted for me.